I want to make this a short video, but I figured I'd just share it because it was kind of an interesting moment in my life. About a month ago, I was offered $5,000 to cash a bad check, basically like check fraud or whatever you'd call that. Not really sure the legal term for it. But at my last job, I was just complaining about the economy and how it's hard to buy groceries and stuff like that. And the guy I was complaining to was just like, just scam people. And I was thinking, scam people? Like, what do you mean scam people? And he's like, I'll teach you. And I was like, no, 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 I'm good. But like curiosity got the better of me, and I was just like, what do you mean like you'll teach me? Like, what do you mean fraud? Like teach, like scam people? And then he basically, explained this whole check fraud scheme that he has going on. And he apparently had done it a lot of times with different people. And what he was doing was sending his money over to Mexico to build himself a house. He was Mexican. He had a Mexican citizenship. So he was just building like a property like south of the border, and then he was gonna go move down there once he built his house, like on a nice plot of land. But he just needs to like get more people to cash bad checks. And he told me basically it was like a 1-to-3 split, or what, one third split. Like I would get $5,000 and he would take $10,000. So I would have to go cash a $15,000 check. I'd keep 5, he'd take 10, and then he'd send it over the border to build his house. And I was just like, man, that's scandalous. Like I didn't say yes. Like my own personal faith wouldn't allow me to do that. But I just thought like that's crazy. But like that's kind of where people are at. They're just committing fraud. And they don't even care because it's like it's a bank. Like who cares if it's, I'm not saying go do that. I'm just saying like people don't have any more empathy, like any more empathy or sympathy with the banks. Like, why would, like, people are thinking to themselves, like, why would you ever be like square with a bank? You know what I mean? Like people are like, why would you ever want to play ball or play fair with the banks that stack everything against you? Now, I don't think what he was doing was justified, but part of me also just kind of feels like, maybe the check cashing place is, losing money. But when you think about just how everyone's just kind of taken advantage of with like banking and the FDIC and all that stuff, you kind of just think to yourself, yeah, it's probably hurting someone down the line, but ultimately, like, no one, I don't know. I'm not saying I did it or I would endorse anyone doing that. I never did it. But I get why people are resorting to that, because it just sort of feels like, who's the victim? The bank? The federally insured money? Who's I don't know. Either way, I could be wrong. I don't know. But it was, I explained it to my mom just because it was such a wild thing to have offered to me. And she said something so like poignant. She said, when you were complaining, when I was complaining to him, he was thinking in his head, how can I make this benefit me? Because he's really just kind of trying to serve himself. Like he's just trying to, make a connection with someone who can, get the ball rolling for his next scheme. And she was right. Like he just wanted to make it about himself. Because that's his major asset. That's his main asset when it comes to like committing fraud or defrauding a bank or a check cashing place. Your main asset is not your printer machine that you can like start printing off bunk checks off of. Your main asset is a patsy that'll go in, walk into a check cashing place or a bank and cash it out, cash. That's your asset. You can print off those bad checks as much as you want. Your main asset is finding a new person to walk in on your behalf and split the money with you and agree to that. That's your main asset, because they incur all the risk. And he didn't tell me this is what he was gonna do, but I was assuming that if I did take the offer, which I didn't, but if I did, I'm assuming that if I got caught, because I'm thinking, later, I'm thinking about what would he have done if I got caught? Would he have would I have ratted him out, or what? How does that even work? You know what I mean? And I'm guessing that he could probably just go south of the border. If anyone that he sends out to go cash those checks gets caught, he could just go to Mexico. Like he's building his house, but that doesn't mean he can't still run his operation south of the border. Granted, it would be a little bit harder to do, but I just kind of thought, like, man, if I, you basically, as the person of the patsy, the walking in with the check, you incur all the risk, and if you get caught, he'll just run. And he's already good. Like, he's already got savings. He's already got like a piece of land. He's already building his house. It's almost finished. And I just thought, like, man, he thinks he has everything planned out, but you know what? And he said that when he goes south of the border, he's going to start doing things legit. Like, he's going to open a business, and he's going to have a little business down there with his house that's paid off, and that's going to be how he lives his life. But I don't buy it. Like, once you're entrenched in that kind of lifestyle, doing those types of things, I don't believe you when you say, I'm going to be legit. I'm going to be straight, on the straight and narrow. Once everything's done and everything's paid off and I have my house and I have my money, that's when I'll be legit. That's when I'll be ethical. That's when I'll be on the level. That's the way he sold it to me. But I don't buy it for like a second. Like, especially if you're going like down south of the border, like he probably would have gotten mixed up in like trafficking people over the border or something, like coyotes or whatever. But I don't know. I thought it was kind of a wild story. Just this guy telling me, like, you want to make $5,000, to do like a serious like federal offense. No one's ever offered me anything like that, because I don't surround myself with people who have a criminal mentality or a criminal enterprise. That's not really the type of people that I'm around usually. So it did kind of sideswipe me to see him do that. I just kind of, played it off like, okay, that's cool. Like, no, thank you. But, thanks for the offer. But in my head, I'm thinking, like, that's so scandalous. Like, that you just offer that to somebody. But, I guess he took on the risk, and I guess it pays off sometimes, because people must be receptive to it. I don't know. I mean, also, you probably don't want to find out what he would do if you like ratted him out or something. Like, if I told the police, this is his name, this is where he lives, this is the car he drives, this is where he works, and this is, everything. You don't want to know what somebody like that would do. Like, he'd probably, hire some hired person. I don't want to say what word, because I don't want to get flagged on YouTube, but he'd probably hire someone to mess with you, or, really mess with you. So, I mean, that didn't cross my mind as something that I would do, but I thought about, like, man, like, what if this guy tells the wrong person? And he probably would just hire someone to get rid of him. Probably. I mean, when you do stuff like that, that's probably something you'd think about. I don't know. But yeah, also he told me that for his taxes, for tax purposes, he and really, this guy was so worn out with his side hustle and his full-time job, because it wasn't just a full-time job. He was working where I was working, making like nothing. And on top of that, he was doing 4 hours of overtime every day. So he did 12 hours every single day, because they were short-staffed in his position. The department that he worked in was basically just like him and a trainee. But yeah, he just did overtime every single day. So that way, when he reported that he bought a new car cash, or when he buys this or whatever, that there's no, like, there's everything on his paperwork is lining up, because he does 12 hours of work every single day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you know, that's, so it adds up, and they take a lot of it out of his taxes, but that's like how he can, that's like how he can kind of like write off or prove that he has enough to put a down payment on a nice car, which he had a nice car. But yeah, that's, I guess he is working really hard, but not like in the right way. Yeah, I'm not too envious of that lifestyle, because things can flip real quick. But yeah, I mean, that's high risk, high reward for you right there. I mean, that is basically most crime. But yeah, anyways, just thought I'd share that story with you. Take care.